Today we celebrate the feast of St. Rita. It's kind of a strange thing, her patronage. She's the patron saint of battered women. And she had a really, really tough life. But the strange thing is the only two men I've ever known who have been married to someone named Rita treated them like they were, like St. Joseph treated the Blessed Mother, with just love and just cherished them with all their heart. So her intercession must be pretty powerful. But her life started at a young age in Italy, and when she was little, she wanted desperately to become a nun, and at 12 years old, her parents said, "No, you're getting married." And at 12 years old, she was married, and very soon after that had two children, twin boys. And her husband was very mean to her, and he abused her both physically and emotionally. But she kept praying and praying and praying for him, and finally converted him towards the end of his life. And he was part of this giant feud in that part of Italy between these two families that were warring against one another for generations. And she convinced him to step back from that and to not fight with them, to just let the feud go. But he was murdered by one of his own allies, who apparently weren't very happy that he wasn't joining in on the feud. And so later, the uncle of the two little boys tried to convince her boys to seek vengeance for the death of their father, and wanted the feud to start up all over again. But she was convinced that she wanted to become a nun still. And as a widow, she applied to the convent, and the convent said, "You're not going to be allowed into the convent as long as this feud continues." And so she prayed that the feud would end, and also that her two boys would not commit the mortal sin of committing murder to avenge their father's death. And so her two sons, before they could carry out the plans, both died of dysentery. It seems like a strange thing to pray for, but her focus was not on this world. Her focus was on the next world. And she went on to become a nun and eventually a saint. But it seems strange that she would pray that her sons would, no matter what it took, die before they would commit a mortal sin, because her focus again was on heaven. She wanted to spend eternity with them. And if it meant that their life was a little shorter here on earth, that was okay with her, because it's nothing compared to eternity. You hear in the gospel reading Jesus, again, preparing his apostles and his disciples for his leaving. He had already died, but they were consoled by the fact that he would come and visit with them many times before Pentecost, but he was about to leave. And they wouldn't see him again on this side of heaven. But he said, "You'll cry and you'll be sad, but it'll be okay, because one day you'll be filled with joy beyond your imagination." A joy in heaven and being in my presence, and not just in my presence, but in the presence of my Father. He said when a woman is in childbirth, she's in great agony because of the pain, but once she looks into that little baby's eyes and sees that love that she brought into the world, somehow the pain fades because of that joy that she has now. For those who have lost a loved one, it's very hard, especially if the loss is recent, like the family down in Ambridge that just lost a little boy, TJ, in the river. That pain is so real and so powerful, but the one thing that gives us hope as Christians, that it's not the end of the story, that one day we'll see them again, filled with joy in a time and a place that's beyond anything we can begin to imagine. To be in the presence of Christ and to be in the presence of those we love once again, not just for a day or a week or a year or a decade, but for all eternity, to live in joy with them in the presence of our Lord Jesus Christ.